Welcome to another HanDrinksSolo wine info video, this time on Niel Joubert's Reserve Tempranillo 2020. Niel Joubert as an estate are situated on the Siemensburg ward of Stellenbosch. They have a number of ranges within their wine collection. They have the family range, and then they have the estate range, and then they have the reserve range. The estate range, to me, is, I guess, what one might describe as a lifestyle range of wines, which always seems like a euphemism. But their reserve range is where things get a little more interesting, which is why today we are discussing the Reserve Tempranillo 2020. This wine is a little bit like Batman, in that in order to truly understand it, you need a little bit of context. Like with Batman, for example, if you just saw a man in tights punching a hobo, you'd be completely forgiven for saying, "Hey, man, cut it out. Put down the destitute gentleman. Can't you see that he only turned to crime because he was the victim of an unjust system?" But then Batman would retort, "I'm Batman." And then you'd be like, "Whoa, okay." Like, all you needed to do was say so, you know? We thought you were a flamboyant millionaire murdering sociopath, but you're Batman. And we all get Batman, right? Because we know his history. And so, to discuss this Niel Joubert Tempranillo, we kind of need to know its history to make sense of it. Now, this Niel Joubert Reserve Tempranillo is very much channeling old school Rioja in its style. You might say, well, why Rioja? What even is that? Well, Rioja is a region in Spain that is believed to be the home of Tempranillo, even though the Phoenicians may well have brought the grape from what is today Lebanon. But Rioja is considered to be the home of Tempranillo, which is why we need to understand the traditional style of wines that come out of that region. Now, in old school Rioja, oak is a big deal. And more than that, it wasn't French oak, it was American oak. And it could sit from anywhere between 12 months and up to 24 months in American oak, which is a long time. And as we know, American oak is slightly more porous than the tighter grain French oak, which means it gives more lactones and vanillin and contributes far more obvious notes of caramel and vanilla and cinnamon into the wine. So when you think of Rioja, it's very difficult to even conceive of traditional Rioja without imagining a wine that has quite pronounced elements of oak to it. Put another way, while these wines are potentially captivating, the oak is hell of obvious. Now, of course, as a side note, that is all changing in Rioja, and there's something called the Rioja Revolution, where winemakers are trying to make wines that respect the soil and the place and dial back on the oak, and there's a fight between the old and the new, but that is a topic for another day. What I want to talk about is how Niel Joubert have created a Tempranillo that has that same element of plenty of oaky vanilla leaning up against the fruit elements in the wine. Now, the alcohol in the wine is 14.5%, so you know that the grapes were harvested fairly ripely, and then the majority of the fermented wine is matured in 100% new oak. Again, by South African standards, that's a lot of oak. And along with that oak comes the elements we've spoken about of notes of vanilla and of cinnamon. But then again, this is a New World red wine harvested quite ripely, and so you've got generous fruit elements which lean up against that oak and interplay quite nicely. But all in all, what you've got is a rather old school wine that showcases a fairly prominent oak framing within which you have this ripe Tempranillo fruit coming through. There is an interesting little exercise you can do to really isolate the effect of oak on Tempranillo by drinking the De Krantz Tintoreries 2019, which would have been in the mixed case, alongside your Tempranillo Reserve from Niel Joubert. The Tintoreries only uses very, very old oak in slightly larger formats, so you're not going to get that oak component right up front on the wine, and it's really a stark contrast with the Niel Joubert. So let me know, compare the two, leave a review at the bottom of the page, and if you have any questions about Tempranillo, Siemensburg, Stellenbosch, Niel Joubert, leave them in the comment section, and I will try to get back to you.